How's everybody doing tonight? Had a few technical difficulties last night. I think I figured those out. Shout out to Wilton, first one in the house. Glad you could make it. Oh man, it's been a long week for me, so just gonna keep making it happen. So let's see, we look good there. Just gonna let a few people fall in. You know how we do it. If you got any cybersecurity questions, just drop them in the box. Like I said, I had a few technical difficulties last night. I think we figured those out. So we'll see if I can find me on YouTube real quick. See if my sound is okay. I know football's on, so I know a lot of people's in that world checking that out. So man, I don't know why I'm so tired. What's up, Blake? Glad you could join. If you got any cybersecurity questions, just drop them in the box. We can pivot and come back. About to get started here shortly. Like I said, I think I got all the technical difficulties figured out from last night. It's been a while since I've live streamed. I gotta get back in the groove. Start doing my AWS on Sunday at 3. So let me share my screen. I am lacking. So see what the topic is. It's the window. Boom. Electric grid outage. It's talking about it from we're here. Okay. Shout out to Blank. We're here. Yeah, we're gonna talk about electric grid outage from a cybersecurity perspective, right? A lot of people forget there's a cyber perspective of nation hackers, physical perspective, people trying to shoot out transformers, right? So I thought it would be just a good topic too. It's a bigger topic. A lot of people don't put cybersecurity and the electric grid together. So if you're new here, let's just hit the subscribe button, and like I said, let's get into it. So we're going to talk about, we're going to show a video. This was 2003 where that whole part right there was a blackout. And I think I said 20 million people were in darkness around New York area for a while. So I remember that like it was crystal clear. I think that was 2003. So that's just kind of electric grid, right? You got your fossil fuels, nuclear power, hydro facilities, and everybody's trying to go renewable at the bottom, right? You get your high voltage, step it up, put it on your transmission high voltage lines, goes to your neighborhood right there. It's going to step it down. If you ever took a couple electronics classes, right? Goes to your local neighborhood, industrial, commercial, your house, right? So power grid, right? But I think we take it for granted, right? Until it doesn't work, right? Like we're about to look at a video like Texas, right? The winter, Texas doesn't get a winter. When they got the winter, right? Their grid went down. So we definitely about to touch on that real quick. So need some advice with finding a job with limited experience. I finished a cybersecurity degree in computer forensics. Yeah, shoot me an email, professorblackops@gmail.com. Kind of what's your background? You got some IT skills, so we can get you from, are you in IT trying to go to cybersecurity? Or are you somewhere else with no IT experience? Because usually if you go from some other industry, get you in a help desk for like 6 months, then from help desk you can jump into cybersecurity. Well, there's a few ways to get in. I don't know if you're a programmer, networking guy, no experience, so you need to put a few of that in the box. Let's see, Xavier Edwards. I remember when the RV exploded near some power places a few years back, and I think it was Tennessee. Power was out here in Louisiana for a few days. Yeah, that's crazy, man. And when your power's out, That is a real chore, right? Do you have a generator? Do you have water? Do you have food even, right? A lot of times if the whole state goes out, if that supermarket really does have backup generators, right? Most food's gonna go bad in 48 hours at the most, even if you have it on ice, right, Xavier? So, and two is we're gonna talk about from your personal perspective. You need to talk about, and it's what it is. Cybersecurity is called business continuity planning, right? So, what is your personal business continuity plan? Right, I do it for federal government, so they have a business continuity plan where I work. Right, if the building gets hit, if there's an earthquake, if there's a flood, right, we have a business continuity plan. So if at the top you see civil disorder, terrorism, contingency plan for emergency power generation, housing, fuel, and food, development, detailed corporate employees, vendors, and contractors list. If you have an earthquake, hurricane, floods, tornadoes, identification of primary and secondary backup facilities. What's your pandemic plan? Your personnel accountability plan, supplier and subcontractor dependencies, or if you have temporary employee relocation, right? The last one's kind of mute, right? Since the pandemic, everybody's working from home or a large contingent of people working from home. So a lot of times you don't have to find, that temporary relocation plan. It's just your house, right? So, but from a business perspective and from electrical grid perspective, if that goes down from a business, do you have backup generators? If you're an Amazon web service or something, can you just run your business in the cloud and do DR from the East Coast to the West Coast and keep your business running? If it's an online business, right? But what is your business continuity plan? What's your BCP? What's your disaster recovery plan? What's your business impact of that plan, right? So just little things to touch on from a cybersecurity perspective, right? That's from your CISP. Some of your Security Plus will have those questions in it, right? But just want to touch on that, right? We're a cybersecurity channel, so we got to map that out, right? This is the new grid, right? We got the solar, we got the reusable batteries, we got the renewable, we got our Tesla down there getting charged up. But if the grid doesn't work, don't none of that work, right? So it looks cute, right? It's a nice picture, but it's the electric grid, right? And I think that's what we're trying to upgrade it to the smart grid, right? But we still got some of that from the 60s grid, right? So we got to balance the new with the old, right? And then from a cybersecurity perspective, how do we, protect it from getting hacked by that? And shout out to AWS at the bottom. People know I'm working on my AWS search. So they actually have computer power you can use in the cloud to help you with the electric grid or your service area or your load management of your electric grid, right? Amazon can give you computer power and calculations and all that. And we're going to touch on that at the end, right? So let's look at that Texas grid real quick. Let's see.
Expected to be the largest insurance claim event in Texas history, surpassing even Hurricane Harvey in 2017 and these wildfires in 2011. This winter storm totally overwhelmed the power system in Texas. So how did it happen? On Sunday, ERCOT, which runs the state's power grid, warned of the upcoming disaster.
We could be in emergency operations as early as tonight.
With millions.
So they already knew they were going to get, what's up, Ty? Glad you could join me. They already knew they were going to get overwhelmed, right? Texas does not get snow. So when one of the strongest things that pull a current is heat. If you cut on a heater or your heat at your house, or even space heaters take a ton of heat. I remember working at a warehouse and people start putting heaters on those cubicle walls. It popped all the circuits. So we had to tell people, y'all can't run 4 heaters on this one circuit breaker, right? Because the heater pulls a ton of voltage, a ton of watts, and a ton of amps, right? So Texas wasn't quite ready. And Texas run their own grid. I think for some reason they broke out the national grid because they thought it was going to be cheaper. Didn't work out well for them.
Of Texans struggling to keep warm, several power generators failed, crippling the system. ERCOT operators decided to impose rolling outages to prevent a larger collapse.
If we had waited and not done outages, not reduced demand to reflect what was going on the overall system, we could have drifted towards a blackout.
And while there are unique characteristics to the power grid in Texas and from this disaster,
I think every state, every system should really be taking a close look at how they're planning their systems to make sure that it accounts for climate change.
as bad as it has been for Texas,
So he's telling you that with climate change, it's gonna be colder or hotter, right? So AC pulls a ton of current, and of course heaters pull a ton of current. So if you're gonna get those major swings in temperature, you're gonna need to make sure your power grid can handle it. And when you go to major cities like Chicago, New York, people are stacked on top of each other, right? They're in those huge mega buildings and structures.
ERCOT today saying those rolling outages actually saved the system.
We wouldn't be sitting here talking about restoration, today, tomorrow. We would be telling you that we're not sure when restoration would be done.
Not much solace for the Texans who are cold and in the dark yet again tonight. Stephanie Gosk, NBC News.
So how they say power is, right? They start cutting sections of the city off so it doesn't pull current, right? But that sucks because you're in the dark and you cold, right? So if you don't have firewood or a generator or something you can run with a battery for a heater, right? You're gonna be cold, right? You can freeze, and a few people didn't make it right through that Texas power grid, right? So, and two is if you can do that through Mother Nature. From a cyber attack, you can pull current or make current go certain ways, right? To, like he said, if they didn't cut off certain sections of that power grid, the generator would have burnt up, right? He said he didn't know how long it would take to be back online if it got to that critical point. Right? So,
thanks for watching our YouTube channel.
So I just put that because part of the CISP test, they talk about electric voltage and stuff. So part of that, what's ground? A pathway to Earth to enable excessive voltage to dissipate. What is noise? Electric magnetic frequency interference to disrupt power flow. Transient noise, short duration of power line disruption. Clean power that does not fluctuate. Fault, a memory power loss or out. Blackout, complete prolonged loss of power. SAG, a memory low voltage. Brownout, prolonged low voltage. Spike, a momentary high voltage. And a surge is a prolonged high voltage, right? So we talk once again, CISP is a security certification. It's probably one of the highest ones. So they touch the electric grid and electric in your data center, right? You definitely gonna be tested on that. So that's part of it. So let's look at a few more things. Let me make that a little bigger. And let's take the whole screen. So then when you look at it from stuff, you got markets with Energy Market Clearinghouse, operations at the top, right? You got Enterprise Bus, SCADA Electronics, PLC. Those are stuff inside a plant, right, that handles electricity. Like we talked about, make the voltage high, make it voltage low. Service provider, billing. So these are wide area networks, right? So these are really just networks with computer systems on. What's up, Ricky? Glad you can join us. So if these are wide area networks, field area networks, those can be attacked by what? Hackers, nation states, mafia, or just rogue domestic terrorists, right? Script kiddies can attack these. Or you can do a denial of service attack. You can do malware attack. You can do ransomware on these, right? So these are just really computer systems, and they are interconnected, especially with the smart grid, right? They want to read your meter without coming out, right? All that's just networking, right? So if it's just networking, all your networking attacks are available to you to make that happen. Apparently, a lot of hospitals were vulnerable for hacks. Oh, most definitely. Most of the hospitals are still want to struggle with old computer system. You would think how much those hospital bills charge, they could upgrade their computer system, but a lot of those computer systems, especially when you're talking about X-ray machines and MT scanners and stuff, are really old technology. So it's hard to upgrade that stuff and make sure they're still communicates with other parts of the network. But no, you are correct. Hospitals always getting hit by ransomware, and they're one of the few agencies definitely that are paying. So once again, we're talking about the conceptual reference diagram of a smart grid information network at the top. And once again, it's just a network. Same protocols, a lot of SFTP. The SCADA is a little different, but once you get out, out the plant, then with the smart grid, it's just really more an extra networking, right? It's transmission down there, distribution, and the customer, right? So, and we know that's just going to be standard networking. So in terms, technical terms, allows grid operators to access stability, provides digital metering. We saw that. Comes equipped with relays that can recover faults in substation, use a feeder switch, provides batteries to store excessive energy, use advanced technologies to balance the load and reduce peak hours and bring down energy costs, provides two-way communication between the utility and the customer, giving folks the data they need to better manage their energy consumption. Right? When you're doing two-way, right, that's where the hacker's going to get you, right? Because by hacking to your house, now I can hack into the power company, right? Because it's a two-way communication. Shout out to Xavier. This must look like use SP older, probably same for school networks. Yeah, I'm doing. I just did a video on the second largest school system in Los Angeles. They just got hacked, so definitely school system. It was the largest, second largest high school. Local municipality requiring the move to electric appliances, water heaters. Yep, they believe it's more fuel efficient. So you're correct. Why not? So those are just some of the things in the electric grid. Let's talk about the security, right? Cybersecurity. Perhaps one of the most important thing in the smart grid, cybersecurity. The grid is connected to underpinning nearly everything sector, critical nation infrastructure in the U.S. All 16 of them. If something happens to our power source, the consequences are dire. Think of blowing up the Death Star. As we transition into new technologies, we need to make sure we don't make the same mistakes that we made in our headlong rush into IoT land. We can't make gadgets, machine, and advancements faster than our ability to secure them. Hopefully, when DevOps and SecOps, we learned our lesson, right? Because a lot of times the Internet of Things, those things aren't very secure because they were just rushing the market, right? So, development operations and security operations, now they combine them. They got some. I did a couple of videos. DevSecOps, right? Development for security operations. How you get code out there. How do you get patches to the smart grid, right? When Tesla downloads patches from the car, I can have you download malware and take over your car, right? Or make your car crash if I do ransomware. So all that, like you said, needs to be secure. We need to make sure we're talking about security in the future of the grid, right? Because the grid is growing. We're doing more things. Thanks for coming back, JM. I figured it out. Shout out to JM. What do you think about automatic electric meters that, yeah, I just said I don't come out to your house and read are they safe? I think that's the future. I don't think we locked them down quite right, right? So no, I don't think they're safe. I don't think we took the proper precautions to lock those down. And we'll look at some of the electric companies or electric segments because it's not one big company. It's not controlled by the federal government, right? So each one of those, and we're looking up, it's called NERF, National Electric Companies, and it's split up in the United States. It's like 6 or 7 of them, and each of them works independent, right? So they have to communicate, and each one of them is in charge of securing their sector, but there's really no government oversight to make sure they do it right. So no, JM, I don't think we're going to get that done right when we get our smart meters, right? So The electric grid is essential to all our lives. Every human being in the United States is literally on life support, plugged into the electric grid. If somebody unplugged us, everything necessary to sustain our human population stops. Food, water, fuel, transportation, medical and communication, and financial everything. The electric grid is vulnerable to a number of threats. And we know there was a Senate report, and in the report, that in a long-term national scale blackout, millions of United States citizens could die. Right after only a few weeks, we could die in droves from waterborne disease, starvation, societal collapse, and what if the grid went down for longer than a few weeks, right? And I always say that's true because when we couldn't get toilet paper in the pandemic, hell, we didn't pass that test. So shout out to my homie before the billions in here. Glad he could join us. Definitely go check out his channel, doing big things over there. So the United States believe if they're, and I got the report when they kind of give the number of people, right? So long-term national scales, millions of United States citizens could die, right? So once again, you need to proactively, like we talked about, what is your personal business continuity plan? If the power went off for 3 weeks, could you make it? Do you have safety measures? Do you have extra water? Do you have food? Right? Because the supply chain's been kind of messing up. A lot of times you go in a grocery store and nothing's there. Right? So if that happens for 3 or 4 weeks, right? How would you survive? Let's see where I live. Where I live, the gas and electric bill is automatically using the system, right? So check out the Savage Scientist. I was checking him out. He's doing his programming thing. I keep saying I'm gonna get back in development, but I'm tired. So let's look at a little more. So this was the report where they talked about a lot of time governments doing studies, which they should, for things you want to know, but you don't want to know. So this is their study activities of community of Homeland Security, Homeland Security and Government Affairs. So in the report, they had critical infrastructure in the United States depend on its critical infrastructure, particularly the electric power grid, as well as critical infrastructure sectors are some of the degree dependent on the electricity to operate. If a successful nuclear EMP attacks against the United States could cause the death of approximately 90% of the American population, similar to a geometric disturbance, could have equally devastating effects, right? So MP is basically somebody detonates a nuclear bomb above the atmosphere, and when those hydrogen bombs come down, they're gonna fry every electronic device in the United States, right? If you watch James Bond or Bruce Willis, they always on there. We got the EMP, right? So if the EMP actually hit, the government believes 90% of us is not gonna make it, right? So what are you doing personally to make sure you're part of the 10%, right? So I love The Walking Dead. So we're gonna be, we're gonna be grouping up, man. It's gonna be the tech bros. Me, Savage Scientist, JL, Black Heights, Textual Chatter. We'll have to get our posse together and go get some food, right? But if you can't get food and other people have food, how are you going to get food, right? Can you grow food? Do you have some in your basement? If you have some in your basement, will somebody come and try to take it, right? So I don't know if that's just a TV show. I don't know if that's just a movie, but I don't know if that's real life. But part of business continuity is figuring that out in real life, right? So what would happen? Because like I said, we did horrible in the pandemic with toilet paper. So if we get hit by EMP, I don't think we're gonna do a very good job. What's up, Calvin Henderson? Let's see what my man says. Man, MP hit too many people. We're struggling. I think 90% is a big lump. Wow, okay, what you got us up? 95? We done? So I stock up on rice and beans, five stuff that doesn't need to be refrigerated, right? That's the thing is because your refrigerator is going to go out, right? So So I actually got a gas generator. So in real life, I was talking to my son. So I shouldn't give you out a secret. Don't come to my house. I said we gotta black out the windows in the basement because if we don't have a house with lights on, people gonna come to our house. If you ever seen that Boondocks episode where Riley was like, we can only support 4 people, nobody can come in. I should have cut that out and put that in there. But no, seriously, what would that look like and how would you do it and how would you survive, right? So this one, I got another new clip. This was 2003. I remember it where I think 20 million people right there in that dark spot lost power. It's actually, close to 9/11. So they actually thought it could have been an attack from there. So let's listen to that one too. This one's super interesting because I remember that one. So it was crazy.
We are in the midst of what appears to be a colossal and history-making blackout.
People trapped in elevators and buildings. They have activated the emergency.
So I love the Will Smith movie with the aliens, right? So if you stuck in this traffic jam and you can't get gas because all the power is out, what you gonna do? Right? This is real life. This is not a movie. This actually happened. So let's see what my man said. Texas will hit with the MP. Big freeze. Yeah, I just showed that video. I probably show it again, Calvin. Yeah, I was showing that one. Like you said, Texas didn't do well at all. But this is a real live, not a movie. This is real live in 2003.
Staggering, trying to take in as much information as you can.
Mayor Bloomberg's advice is to go straight home.
The subway system is down.
Ottawa is completely without power now.
The lightning-quick domino series of failures.
Now, JM Not Legend, which is a good one, though. I was going with, what's that space movie? The space one. It just was on my tip of my tongue. Independence Day. Remember, everybody was trying to run out the city when the aliens was coming. That's what I was thinking about. But yeah, but this is real life, people. These people are stuck. No power.
Go to the bathroom and you can't even go nowhere.
50 million people are thought to have lost power.
In 2003, a massive blackout struck major areas of the U.S. and Canada and was perceived as a wake-up call for the nation.
We've got a real crisis in our grid, and this is why, despite being a superpower, we have a grid that is comparable to a third world country, and that's not right.
But have 10 years of planning and preparation left us better off today?
I don't think you can ever say with 100% confidence we won't have a blackout.
The crazy part, that was in 2003. They reported this in 2013. It's 2022, and like my man said, Texas just had a blackout because the grid couldn't handle the heat that was pulling from a snowstorm. So in 2003 to 2022, I don't think the grids got much better. Right. True with true. Same problem though. Like you said, you gotta get out. But you gotta think about that's 2020, 2003, 2022. I don't think we really upgraded our electric grid much at all in those 20 years.
Electricity is really far more important than anyone realizes. We take it for granted. We flick the switch and it goes on, but it has to be in balance or the lights go out.
There has been a massive power outage throughout much of the Northeast, both of the United States and of Canada.
Look at that. That was the United States and Canada. Let me go back. Look at all those people. You just walking around. What's the plan? You just walking. Where are you going? If that's crazy enough, facts, Mad Max. People gonna group up. I said, yeah. So Ricky sold. Our grid ain't got any better, Ricky. We still suck as a country. Is the progress ready for fast to fail already yet? 2021, right? That's the crazy thing. So we're not getting any better.
Both of the United States and of Canada. Millions and millions of people were caught by surprise when the electrical grid suddenly crashed. It shut down 100 power plants from Ottawa down to Cleveland and as far east as New York.
The most immediate concern was for thousands believed to be stranded underground in the dark in the New York subway system or in elevators in skyscrapers.
The attacks of 9/11 were pretty fresh in everybody's mind, and the first thought on almost every New Yorker that I spoke to's mind was, is this terrorism?
The police are saying that the evacuation procedures are working, people are calm, and that they are getting out. A normal August afternoon had turned to crisis. Around 50 million people across the US and Canada were left without power.
All of Cleveland's water supply runs on electric pumps.
My water commissioner said the people in the Heights have water for 3 hours. I said, water? I thought the electric was out. He said, Mayor, how do you think the water gets from the lake to the people in the Heights?
You can get
To me, that's huge right there. I do business continuity for a living, right? I worked at federal agency and government agency. She's at the top of the food chain. When you do business continuity tests, she should have known that before this event even happened. So when she says that really lets me know that they never practiced, they never really talked about it. We do business continuity tests. We have the president in there, we have the CFO, we have the operations, because we're going to go through, if we get hit by a tornado, if we get hit by a flood, if a plane runs into this building, if the data center goes out, these are the things we need to know. So she had no idea that, okay, the power's out, the water's good. Like she said, no. How you think the water get from the lake into the pipes? That's electricity to pump it, right? So that's why you got to do those business continuities tests and test your plan, right? So let's see what Calvin said real quick. Too many politicians convinced paying money into infrastructure is bad money. People chant facts. They think it's failed till they can't get to work because the bridge collapsed. First thing is to fix the power grid, unplug it from the internet. No reasons for power, water, such being on an internet, period, full stop. We need the internet, Calvin. Well, I'm not talking to you now. I'm just saying it creates a domino effect. Facts. So, but that really kind of caught me off guard too. I'm like, well, how the hell the electricity with the water? She's like, well, you pump the water from the lake into the pipe. It doesn't magically get in there, right? You need electricity for that, right? So when you talk about taking the power grid out, you taking so much other things out that people are not even aware of.
along in the dark, you can get along in the heat, but water becomes a health and safety issue very quickly.
While terrorism was soon ruled out, there was a frenzied search to unravel the mystery behind the source of the blackout.
We don't know yet what went wrong, but we will.
What we're hearing on the radios is that there was some sort of incident in Ontario, Canada.
There was a lot of finger pointing.
U.S. officials initially accused a mishap at a Canadian utility plant. The mayor of Toronto fired back.
Tell me, have you ever seen the United States take blame for anything?
It took 29 hours for the power to be turned back on in most major cities, but the brief outage contributed to at least 11 deaths and cost an estimated $6 billion in economic losses.
We were fortunate that the grid stayed up as it did and it didn't continue cascading any further.
Engineers spent months unraveling the cause of the blackout and traced it not to New York or Canada, but to a downed power line in Ohio.
So you got a down power line in Ohio taking 50 million people's electric power out, right? So the grid is cool like that, but we got to work. It's called cascading. You got to make sure you catch the cascading, so you don't take part of the country out for a couple power lines being down, right? That's crazy, right? So that lets you know we need to work on our grid a little more, right? That creates a domino effect on the infrastructure. The test requires money that most companies try to avoid. Everyone wants cybersecurity. Ain't no one's. No, you correct, Ricky. So the sad part about it is a lot of times we do tabletops where it's not as quite as effective. We just talk about it and run through it on a paper, right? If this goes down, what do you think will happen? Okay, if this building, gets hit by an airplane and people can't come to work, do we go to another building? Can everybody VPN and work? So a lot of times you could do they call it a tabletop, which basically is a paper run through, right? Internet for everything. The grid does not need to be on there to take your tail off. I am never going to the office again. Shout out to remote work. This is the problem. Ricky Sold, no money is invested into preventive maintenance. Testing is a facts on the preventive maintenance for testing. Right. Let's see. JM in the house. A lot of SCADA systems are outdated. If they fail, it can be given. Oh, facts on that. That SCADA stuff is super old. Like you said, a lot of stuff from the 70s and 80s for that SCADA stuff, right? So let's figure out what happened. You know, they did their post-mortem. My ex-boss used to call it the hot wash. Let's figure out what took down the country.
The theory was it was a tree in suburban Cleveland. And we were like, what?
The official report later found it was a series of human and operational failures that set the blackout in motion. A down power line went unnoticed because the alarm system failed at the local power company, First Energy, and soon other lines were overloaded.
When the line overheated, it sagged. And as it sagged, it hit a tree that shouldn't have been in the right-of-way corridor.
Meanwhile, at the regional service operator, Midwest ISO, an employee had gone to lunch and forgot to turn back on the tool that monitored grid problems.
As the grid in Ohio got less and less stable, with too much voltage over too few lines, power plants began to turn off. And eventually it cascaded around the Lake Erie Loop and all the way to New York.
Investigators said today this nation's worst power blackout was mostly the fault of the First Energy Corporation of Akron, Ohio.
First Energy was busy trying to grow, trying to absorb other companies. And the report found that they had let many basic things go. That included tree trimming under these power lines. Their computers hadn't been upgraded. There was more than that.
First Energy declined to speak with us, but has publicly said it implemented new safeguards. Many saw the blackout as emblematic of a wider problem, one brought about by a lack of government oversight for years in the electric industry.
The standards are voluntary and not enforceable.
It's like expecting your kids, when you walk out of the room and leave a pile of candy, not to help themselves, unless you've said, there will be consequences if you grab that pile of candy.
So like you said, there was no government oversight, so companies are going to do what they want to do and just kind of be rogue. Now, that's true, Xavier. I'm sure a couple people got fired. Lots of people got fired from that, right? But once again, computer grid from a cybersecurity perspective, you got to run those tests, lock down those systems, and make sure, you know, everything is being handled from testing, cybersecurity, patching, upgrading, right? All that's part of that cybersecurity game.
First Energy was never fined for its role in the blackout. In 2005, Brownell's agency, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, was finally given the power to impose hefty fines and has levied tens of millions of dollars in penalties since 2010. But fundamental issues remain.
It still doesn't quite make sense to me that the grid was that vulnerable.
It's a big old system. When it started, you had a little local system. You had an electric power provider, a plant, a spider web of wires around the plant to serve customers near the plant. Then you put together a national system where you connect all those spider webs. It's grown up over a long period of time, and there just isn't one center or.
If you look at, those are all the different organizations that are in there, right? First Energy. I actually interviewed with myself about 3 or 4 years ago. So that's a Midwest company. So it's just not one national company that you can get to and say, fix it, right? You got to go through all of these different regional power plants for the national grid, which is cool at a certain point, because if one got taken out, the whole nation's not taken out, right? But we got to figure a way to interoperability, you know, make that stuff work a little seamlessly, you know, to make sure that works a little better. Government oversight is bad business. Stop all the pesky caring for other stuff. Capitalism will give you a choice of one. Sometimes though, like that first, the only problem with that, and I'm rolling mostly with you with Calvin, is remember the First Energy, they were greedy. They were buying all the stuff up, but they wasn't doing basic work, right? They wasn't cutting the trees because they were too busy buying other companies, right? so the government can come out and do a review and say, hey, cut the trees down, right? So I think we need to get maybe a little better balance on that, Calvin. Just throwing that out. Supply the grid is wide open with no backup plans. I think they got a few backup plans. I wouldn't say none. Need alternatives available. I think they have a few. I think they're trying to, figure it out. Because we're going big on renewable, right? Renewables there. Tesla, everybody's getting electric cars. So I think they're trying to go wind, rain, water. They're trying to come up with different sources. So different alternatives.
Time, and there just isn't one center or one organization or one entity that's in control of the whole system.
There have been improvements since the blackout, including those that allow power companies to better monitor usage. The goal is to use that information to redirect power across the nation's grid in real time to stop blackouts before they start.
At some point, there may be a breakthrough where it becomes very efficient and effective to store energy, in that you'll be able to shift energy usage to different parts of the day as one grid, as one system. And I think that will dramatically change how this industry is operated.
We have perhaps $1 trillion that needs to be invested in the electric grid to bring it up to the speed we want it to be to serve the needs of this country. We're really living on our great-grandparents willing to spend money on roads, on bridges, on electric transmission lines. We haven't done that in a long time, and we have to get real about that.
Massive blackouts continue to be a global problem. 15 million people lost power in Europe in 2006, 60 million in Brazil and Paraguay in 2009, and more than 500 million in India in 2012. Such events have fueled the imagination of TV writers, who have added their own twist.
It's going to turn off and it will never, ever turn back on.
This may be fiction, but former Senator Dorgan, who worked for years on congressional energy committees and recently wrote a novel speculating about a terrorist attack on the power grid, says the threat today is bigger than a few down power lines.
We know from lots of anecdotal examples that the terrorists that use cyber terror are very inventive. They know that if they could bring down an electric power grid system, that would cause really maximum damage. This is a big, big challenge for our country.
The collective result of these kinds of attacks could be a cyber Pearl Harbor.
This week, more than
we know Russia's been our electric grid a couple of times, so so we know the nation states, terrorist organizations pretty much really know how to shut down our grid, right? So the question is, for me, is not, but when are they going to do it, right? So, yep, industrial control stuff from cyber scientists. Even though renewables option, I wouldn't trust my infrastructure. I've read more, want to get to nuclear or Ethereum. Nuclear waste, everybody just freaks out over that, man. That's the only problem with that, Xavier. I'm with you. The budget needs to be adjusted. Yep. The problem I was saying is capitalism is pitched as a major answer to everything, yet you only have one choice, so no real choice. No, that's true, Cal. I'm with that.
$200 private and public energy companies will stage a large-scale mock blackout. No lights will go out, but the drill will test how government and utility workers would react if the grid went down.
If you bring down the electric power grid system in this country and it stays down for any length of time at all, it'll wreck the American economy. So we've got a lot at stake, and we better keep our eye on the ball.
The cool thing about that, at least they thought about, they were going to do, like we talked about, a tabletop exercise, right? To figure out what will happen if the grid goes down. How quickly can you get it up? And what, like you said, what impact on the economy would that have, right? And that was that 2003 blackout. So And like they were talking about there, you got cascading failure is common in power grids when one element completely or partially shifts to the loads to the nearby elements in the system. The nearby elements are then pushed beyond their capacity, so they become overloaded and shift their load to other elements. Right? Cascading failure is common in high voltage systems where a single point of failure of fully loaded, slightly overloaded. The failure process cascades to the elements of the system like ripples in a pond and continues until substantially all the system are compromised and or goes out. And that's kind of what happened, right? They showed it in Ohio with the power grids, and it just slowly just worked its way around the lake to New York, and it just cascaded and took everything out, right? And that's kind of what this is showing, right? Cascading to there, to there, to there, right? So you cascading from one part of the grid to the other. So that's why the one guy in the Texas was like, if it starts cascading, we got to start shutting parts of the grid down, right? To stop the cascading part of that. But when you start cutting down cascades parts of that, right? People are in the code and you know, are out of it. We were looking at that, right? The threat of the grid is vulnerable. That long-time nation-scale blackouts of millions of citizens, right? So if it went out for the whole country, especially from a nuclear MP, like we talked about, right? 90% of the people probably would die. Like you talked about, much of the grid is self-regulated. The grid, its oversight is called the North American Electric Reliability Corporation. It's a nonprofit corporation. It acts as self-regulatory, whose mission is to assure the reliability of bulk power in North America. The other one is FERC, the Federal Energy Regulation Commission, is an independent federal agency that regulates transmission of electricity, natural gas, and oil. Right. So those are the government organizations who's actually checking on on the grid to make sure we don't cascading, blacking out. And two is these are the 13 industries that are kind of part of power. You can have investor-owned, state and municipality, corporate, federal. Like I said, it's not one power grid, right? So, and there's the West and Interconnect, then the three regionals right there, then the ENCOT interconnection there. So that's kind of how the grids look like in the United States, right? Maybe we need one, maybe we need an oversight over all of them, but we got to do something a little different. Power needs to be more local, yet nobody wants to allow anything local to be built. Generating power 2 miles away is so wasted. No, that's a good point. That's a good point. People talk about it all day long with no funding or with no funding to correct the problems. No, that's true. That's true. Are private companies in energy sector mandated to follow National Critical Infrastructure Protection Plan, or is it optional for them? I think it is optional, but the government, that NERC and those two organizations are trying to make it mandatory. So I think it's optional, JM, to be honest. And if you looked, even though that was 10 years old, we about to look. I got part of a 60 Minutes report, and I think they say in there if it's mandated now. Is certain states you regulate or unregulated. I think the only state was unregulated was Texas. I think they spun out their own thing, but last year when they had that winter, it went terribly wrong. I think Texas was the only one. They want to charge so much. Facts, man. That's true. That's true. I can see Disney want to have their own power. They make enough. Reliability test government appointed people. Yeah. So I think Texas has their own, and everybody else is kind of wedged into these different ones. Yep, there's Texas right there, I think. No, that's not Texas. Hell, I need glasses. But like you said, Texas has their own. Where's Texas at? So there. Oh, there it is. Is that it? Yep. You're right, Calvin. There it is at the bottom. They split it off. So Texas has their own. They have their own. The Midwest kind of split up with 4 or 5. But yeah, but they were trying to figure out what to do with Texas after that winter. So like we talked about here. Russian hackers carried out first major cyber attack on the grid in 2015. That was actually in Ukraine and not the United States. But people think they were practicing on Ukraine to get ready for the United States, right? So they were testing their stuff out, right? So shortly afterward, Russian malware was discovered inside as many as 10 United States utilities, including the operator in a nuclear plant in Kansas. Government officials hastily convened a series of secret briefings with utility executives, prompting power companies to spend months scrubbing their systems. So one of the big tech firms found that malware, right? Then they traced it to, once again, more than 10 United States utilities and a nuclear power plant, right? So we knew Russia and other nation states were in our power grid and doing reconnaissance, right? Before you take down something, you do reconnaissance. You get in there, you kind of figure out what's happening, what's vulnerable, what type of systems they're using, and basically how are you going to attack it. So smart meter, right? The house, power lines, we saw that data connection. And sometimes these boxes are old, right? Smart grid advanced metering, right? So we got to make sure all this stuff's encrypted, all the database stuff is encrypted. Uh, uh, Public and private keys are here so other people can't read it, right? So how are you handling it from a security perspective? Let's see. Texas now want to be part of fair power. East West Texas, 94% of the state. Man, the other city was New Orleans. Facts. Let's see, Trey Wilson. Guessing that's why tech jobs are skyrocketing to be prepared for anything. Yeah, that's what, especially from a cybersecurity perspective. At the front, I kind of talked about, it's called business continuity planning. If something goes down, what's the play? What you going to do, right? You should be testing it. Disney wants to build in Louisiana, but the politicians ran their mouth. They had to work too many bribes. In fact, you got to be greasing them palms so before they gave them a better deal. Thanks for coming out, Ricky. I appreciate it. Check the replay if you want to hear a little more. Florida yanked the deal from Disney. Yep. So once again, potential adversaries, human cause. We talked about from business continuity, from electric grid, right? Aircraft as a weapon, armed assault, biological terrorism, chemical stuff in the food, chemical cyber attack against physical infrastructure, explosive, nuclear terrorists, radiological terrorisms, right? So those are some of the different types of attacks that can happen, right? So this is a standard thing too, is when you use spear phishing or malware to get into corporation, right? The corporation, which are the power plants, they're connected to the industrial control systems, right? That runs the nuclear power plants or the electric or the wind or the turbine, right? So if I get on there and I'm hacking havoc on your electric grid, right? Part of the supply chain can come in. If you get a new update for ICS controller and it has malware on it, like Kaseya's did, right? You could take the whole electric grid down, right? And we could touch on that. That's where AWS said they can help them, right? So we can help you with your computer system, but just different cyber attacks that could get into your electric grid, right, and take it down, right? So that's basically it in a nutshell. So you need to grease those palms. Facts. Weather as a weapon, weather. I wouldn't call it as a weapon, but weather, tornado. I mean, weather took Texas out, really. I mean, if you talk about the storm, so really, let's look at this 60 Minutes report and chop that up a little bit. And the crazy thing is it's new, but it's going to sound like the old stuff. So once again, are we getting any better? That's the thing that's really kind of, I guess, everything is a weapon, prayer, water, solar. Yeah, two is the cyber part of that. So let's see what my man talking about, and are we getting any better? Right. This is February 2022. I think this was 60 Minutes. So for me, I just thought, if you look, that was 3 videos spread across 4, 5, 10 years, and we're not getting any better. Well, I don't think we're getting any better. So for me, like you said, I think we need to put some money in there, really work on our electric grid. Shout out to the savage scientists. look up some new technologies, fusion technologies, better nuclear power, renewable, right? But what is the path to the future, right? It seems like we're just sitting still on stuff that was pretty much built in the 70s and 80s, right? With the spider web and the local computers. So gonna wrap it up. Of course, my favorite thing, everybody knows I'm working on my AWS cert. So AWS has uh, AWS User Guide to Support Compliance, North American Electricity Companies, NERC, Critical Infrastructure Protection. So from their perspective, this is the electric grid to 3,000 people. Example of a triple E electric grid diagram spanning regions containing 69 generators, 60 load taps, and 304 transmission lines, and 195 loads. Construction grid and network model will involve creating typologies. Model itself, the primary source of the model is GIS with management typology. So what they're trying to show us with the connections, we saw where certain areas were being browned out or taken out, right? Or if the line sagged, right, you got that cascading effect. So basically, AWS says is we should be using machine learning and artificial intelligence to help us balance the grid so we wouldn't have those blackouts, right? So that's what they're proposing from kind of like savage scientists. What would be the next steps to make that better as a nation, right? So the modeling NERC reports calls out modeling needs for such distribution grids based on a reliability consideration for modeling purposes. Loads and DERs should be explicitly modeled in steady state or dynamic disturbances right through study for bulk power systems, depending with the level of detail. Right. So on the side is right the meters, the assets, geospatial, the customers. This is actually putting your machine learning model, the analytics, right? Because we want to make sure we balance the power so we don't brown out, right? So modeling for the future of cloud computing agile. This uses a fast approaching the inflection points where a grid that's based on ever increasing share of distributed energy resources cannot be modeled safely and efficiently run with economical and technical limitations of on-prem data center resources. Amazon says you don't have enough computer power to do it. You should use us, right? So they wrote a paper. So I just perused the paper, so I'm not going to read it really. So they're talking about in their paper, once again, that's the model. AWS making accurate energy consumption using Amazon forecast. Managed services that uses machine learning to generate a highly accurate forecast without requiring any machine learning experience. Forecast is Amazon services with the ability to provide a variety of cases, including forecasting, estimating products, and some of that is power generation, right? So what would that look like? You would use Amazon Neptune. So hopefully we're going to get some people together and kind of build this up at Amazon ourselves to see if we can do it, right? So we're going to use Amazon Neptune, which is basically a graph database, identity graph, knowledge graph, using their fraud. This is the endpoints to their Spark. Those are your EC2s and database types and engines you would use, right? Using S3 load bucket, once again, the Neptune streams, which is graphical, clusters, answer, and a spatial query, right? Because you got to remember, as those lines go down and up, you got to balance the power, right? So you constantly getting data streams of information, right? This line is down, this line is up, this line was hit by a tree, right? Or tornadoes in this section. What do we need to send this power, right? So it doesn't cascade and take down the whole national grid, right? So an example, they used a simple circuit, bulk load off the S3 bucket using ETL transfer with Amazon Glue. Amazon S3 is an object query. Glue is a serverless data integration points, right? I don't want to bore people, but I was just interested in there. Once again, that's the setup. I know my man Savage Scientist, he's a programmer. We can get him to program it up. No, just play it. So at the end is this what it would look like. We got our databases over there, our data points flowing in, storage. We're going to transform it, putting a graph database, and then at the bottom, load forecasting, outage prediction, right, and asset management, right. So that's what we could do, hopefully, in the future with diffusion to make sure we don't have cloud blackouts, right. So once again, from a cybersecurity perspective, we're talking about availability, business continuity, and here, if we actually use technology, how will we secure this information to get it to automatically balance power lines? So let's see what Calvin had to say. The problem is that MI can be intentionally filed, same as bribery. Oh, I agree with that. I agree with that. And we've been debating that, Calvin. We've been talking about actually taking those algorithms for machine learning AI, put them on a blockchain so people can review them, right? And because we can take that off into another subject, such as digital redlining, who gets loans, who doesn't get loans, right? So we definitely got to figure out how to be able to review those algorithms to make sure they're not being bribed or have any bias in them, right? Facial recognition in Detroit was failing 30% among Black people because Silicon Valley didn't test it on any people of color, right? So different shades of skin. It just saw as one tone. So they was arresting people of color unnecessarily, right? So even if someone was qualified to do it, they might not be properly compensated or too much regulation. No, that's true. That's always a problem. Anything, Xavier. So those are the things, we just trying to come up with solutions to help us. But we got to make sure they're properly compensated so we can get like you said, a good review on those algorithms and make those happen. So I'm just gonna hang out any longer. That's it. Like I said, what did I go? Oh shit, I want iron 20. So for some reason, that power grid and over history, what it was looking like was just kind of sitting on me. So I just want to hit it. And with Black people, facts, man. And people, you are 100% correct, man. I'm trying to get that I'm trying to get that YouTube money, savage scientist. I'm trying to be politically correct, but you are 100% correct. We need more Black people in tech, especially in cybersecurity, programming, machine learning, artificial intelligence, right? Some of the higher disciplines in technology, right? Because there's a ton of domains and a ton of disciplines in there. So you are 100% correct, cyber scientists. The people who not sharing, no, you're 100% correct, man. Fact, nah, you don't sound racist, man. Nah, you good. Those are facts, man. I agree with you. I put a poll on my channel. People would rather see me do comedy videos. Facts, man. Facts. I get that way. Shout out to Shane Blaine and Explain, man. Like, we both do content. I'm happy if I get 15 people. Shout out to Romil and them. I go in there, I'd be 300 people in the box, man. So I feel you on that, man. I feel you on that. But I came to YouTube. You can get that money back. So but I came to YouTube to help people get into technology. I came here to help people get in cybersecurity. Different models of that. So that's what I came to. I appreciate that super chat, scientist. So many Black folks have been co-opting many things and then tossed to the side. I agree with that, Calvin. I think we need to try to pull that back in. Talk about it's just there's so many disciplines too and we always talk about the bag and the money, right? They got co-opted, right? IT is something, it's not the coolest thing, but you can make a living, right? You can create a tax base to make your community viable again, right? And let's be honest, tech is the future, right? Shout out to cyber scientists chipping in on the barbecue for tomorrow. I looked as a nerdy for me. Savior, I'm with you. Yeah, I remember I was in tech and I did my first programming class in 1984. So I've been a nerd a long time. I was doing RPG, COBOL, PL1, and RPG, PL1, COBOL. There's one more I'm missing. So I was doing all my stuff on a mainframe back when I didn't code or none, because I think there's only. You talking about FBA Black Americans? It's only 3% in the whole IT field, cyber scientists. So that's definitely true. I think it's 6% all people of color. But if you talk about FBA, it's only 3%. Mm. We don't get that. And I try to the name Professor. Nah, you cool, Calvin. Sometimes I be old, man. I be missing stuff. It's all good, man. Let's see, Xavier. Before I was born, wow, 93. Yeah, I did my first vocational programming class in high school, my junior year, which should have been 1984. And that year I did COBOL and RPG and just loved it. I've been programming ever since, man. So then when I got in college, I got that client server. So then I started doing Oracle forms and reports. Then I moved to Java for a little while. Then I got into cybersecurity, DBA work. I managed a small programming team. I've probably done everything professionally except essay and of course, my machine learning, artificial intelligence. I've done networking, but not professionally. So I was Novell certified in in the 80s, but I didn't really do a lot of networking. So yeah, I've been in this game a long time. Yep, I did basic Fortran. Love Fortran, man. Wanted to mention, yep, probably Fortran. I did Fortran. That's the perfect one, Fortran. Which that don't even exist anymore. RPG Fortran. There's still a ton of COBOL out there. PL1 I don't think exists anymore either. You write Fortran. I love Fortran. Shout out to the Fortran. I never felt it was about facts on that, man. Now it just treated me well. I'm 44 years old, so I'm just that I'm with you. I'll be 55. I got you by 11, Savage. I'll be 55 in December. So man, I'm so I feel you. Man. I'm almost 60 when I try my Nintendo. Facts, man, facts. So yeah, I was confused. My son said, "You old, Daddy? You be 55 this year." I'm like, I thought I was gonna be 52. Time flies by. The older you get, time goes fast. Man, when I was younger, I'd be thinking, man, this year taking over, man. When I got in my 50s, man, I blink and a year's over with. So now, shout out to that. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna link up with savage scientists. We're gonna do some programming. We're gonna do some CISP. I'm in Kev Tech's Slack, helping him in there. I'm in Simply Cybers. Gerald, he does GRC. That's really how I make my living. I've been in IT for 30 plus years. I've been in cybersecurity for 10 plus years. So I really make my money doing GRC and compliance. I'm theoretically an IRS Pub 1075 SME, NIST 800 SME. So at a high level, what that is, like she said, those are the compliance the government's telling you as a state agency or trying to get government work. You have to do your hardening and your programming a certain way to be able to get those systems. It's called an ATO, an authority to operate, right? So that's kind of where I make my living and how I make my living. So shout out to Savage Scientist. He would program it and I would go through. Are you doing encryption at rest in the databases? Are you doing HTTPS? Are you validating all your input? Are you hashing your are you doing SHA-1 on your passwords if you save them in the database, right? You got to do a one-way hash, right? So those are the things from a compliance standpoint and a Fed standpoint, right? So that's kind of what I want to help other people get in because I think GRC compliance is a hidden gem to get in there, right? So that's what my man Savage Scientist is saying. Let's see. Oh, let's get for sure, man. We need to collab on CF. Code and Steph, facts. So yeah, I'm finishing up a little AWS. So that's gonna be my next move. Get on the CISP. Man, when we were children, summers was all summer, man. I'd be grinding too, man. I got too much stuff. When I get my coding sequence out the way, I would divide deep into cyber. Yeah, we could definitely collab on that. I want to get into yeah, that's the move. You need to check out my man though. That's Gabe's world. Gabe's in that, man. I don't understand even what that's cool, Michael Salmon. We're gonna make you, we're gonna coach you up, man. I got a series I've started. I need to do a little better. I call it Novice Security. I'm starting a playlist, so we're gonna get you on them terms, man, so you can be ready. You're gonna get this bag, man, so you can get this 100K. So we're gonna get you these terms so you can start progressing, man. Because two is I didn't wake up like this, man. I've been in the game for 30 years, so but yeah, I need to work on my terms though. But yeah, we're gonna definitely welcome you to the party. We're gonna we're gonna get everybody trained up so we can get this back. I wrote a one-way hash. Facts, man. So, but you know, from a like my man Savage Scientist, like we were talking about one-way hash, right? So me being I do federal work, I got to make sure he's doing, which he's definitely capable. I just got to say these are the requirements from a cybersecurity perspective to do work at DoD. Cyber Scientist got the skills. I just need to give him the requirements so he knows these are the things we need to do and this is how we need to do it, right? So that's one cool thing about my job. I miss it though. I don't really touch computers anymore. I delegate work. Like, so I would get Savage Scientists. These are the secure coding requirements. These is, like we got DevSecOps. When he checks something in, it's got to be encrypted. When he pushes it out to development, right? We got to make sure the bad guys are not sticking malware in this code and getting pushed out to government. Like Kaseya's, right? They had Kaseya's and they got pushed out to government contractors and government agencies, right? So you hack, that's what he said. You hack the supply chain, then the supply chain pushes the viruses out to different agencies, right? So shout out to yeah, I love it. Shout out to him. Study security plus now. Yep, get it, man. Get it, right? So I'm working on my AWS security plus is in there. So that's the first step you need to, to get in the game and start getting that money, man. Yeah, the crazy thing is our blue team, we always go back and forth. I'm blue, he's red, right? So we're gonna definitely walk through, like we talked about, some tabletops where if I harden something, how would he hack it to see if it gets through, right? If I say I'm encrypting a database, how would he attack the database to be able to read it if I had it encrypted? One thing, he would try to steal the key to unencrypt it, right, to get the data, right? So those are some things we could do from a tabletop and kind of walk through. This is our hardening. How would he attack it, right? I know he's a big AD attack to get your credentials to get into your database, right? So how would I secure AD so he can attack it, right? So, and we'll walk through it from a tabletop perspective. I'll be looking to get security as part of my business, esports and gaming. I'm about to build a cool, yep, that's cool, man. Yep, if you got the esports in the game, you may get some cybersecurity because part of esports, right? Credit cards, paying, betting on stuff, buying stuff, right? So definitely got to have your cybersecurity. Even though I just did a video, Patreon fired their whole security team, man. I'm not happy with Patreon, man. They fired their whole security staff. T. Jaku, man, working on it. Facts. Just new to things you're familiar with. Nothing stupid. Oh yeah, all good. Let's see. No clear keys and code. Yeah, facts, man. Shout out to teams with the keys in the clear. Shout out to them, man. Somebody put some on there, said he didn't think it was worse. I deleted him. I'm like, I ain't like it. So nah, facts. The red team, blue team game is fun. Yep. The crazy thing is, I'm more purple team. If you combine them, which is application security, that's purple team because most of your attacks are done at the application level, being denial of service or you didn't do your validations or SQL injection, command injection. Most of your attacks are done on the application. So they actually put those two teams together and call it purple. So really, I really rep purple because I programmed for 15 years. So that's really how I really got started into security. Was we had some applications at DoD, and I got to do the security checks on them. So that's really how I got my toe into cybersecurity with the purple team. Appreciate Fred and all those that have been coming here. This channel has been helping me by using university people. I appreciate it's free consulting recourse. All good, man. If you need anything, just hit me up. Professor Blackout at gmail.com. Give me a couple days. I'm usually a little behind on my email. That's why I came to YouTube, man, to help people. Two, I'm 55, man. I tell people I'm about to slide in retirement. So I wanted to come and help people. And two is like Savage Scientist, this young black guy was on there. He just said he felt so alone because he was the only guy on his team. That hurt my heart. I was like, dude, I was saying that in 1984. It's 2021. You talking about you're alone? I said, dude, I'm here. Black Heights here. Savage Scientist here. There's so many guys that are in the space that'll help you, right? So I tell people, you're not alone. You can always reach out to me, and if I don't know, I got somebody that I can send you to. Right. Shout out to the career developers, Black Heights, Tech G, Textual Chatter. You know, they helping people get into the game, get your resume tight. They taught me I got to get my LinkedIn tighter because all the recruiters hit your LinkedIn. I be getting a ton of LinkedIn hits now because recruiters goes to your LinkedIn. I'm gonna do a video. I had a brutal, interview with Amazon. It's called The Loop. My interview was 6 hours, and I didn't get the job, but I really enjoyed the interview. So I want to drop some of those gems on y'all, so y'all can go out there and get one of them $300,000 of jobs from Amazon. So you get some of them restricted stock options. Shout out to Tam. So I'm gonna do a video on it. That interview was brutal. So the crazy thing is the 6 hours, only hour was technical. Rest of it was behavior fit. I just think I'm an old curmudgeon and I don't play nice with others. But Patreon making the rounds, they've been under attack. Their LX inappropriate child content. Oh, facts on that. That's the right word. Change. Facts change. So, but yeah, so those are things we're coming. And two is I'm always gonna do something from the cybersecurity. I try to do regular news. I'm on my AWS kick, so I usually do something on AWS every Sunday at 3. So once you get done with football, just check me out on the replay. So I think I'm gonna do session manager with system manager using session manager, which means I can actually log into a AWS infrastructure without opening ports to the internet. So I thought that was a cool security feature. And they had automation of shutting down EC2 instances, starting them up and patching them. The reason you want to do that from a high level is, of course, I got 2 up, but in a real production site, I work with clients that had 400, VMs, so they would have 400 EC2s, right? You can't manually patch them, right? You got to do that with automation, right? So you can do automation in System Manager, Cloud Formation. I got a few tools. So that's the things I'm gonna start talking about in the future. From a cloud engineer, then I want to move over to a cloud security engineer, right? My thing, I think you need to be decent at engineering before you try to secure it. So let's see what my man's saying. My LinkedIn is underused. Come with the black Wi-Fi. I'm on mine with a flip phone, and I was skinny with hair. So I feel you, Calvin. I got to do a better job with my LinkedIn. The LinkedIn king is Kev Tech. Oh my God, he's always reaching out, pinging me on LinkedIn. Shout out to him. So, but yeah, he's sharing his bigger audience with me. So I appreciate it. That actually helped me get my subs up. So I'm trying to get up to at least 2,000 by the end of the year. So shout out to Kev Tech helping the old people now. But he's definitely on LinkedIn. He a monster on LinkedIn. So he be putting in great work. So let's see. Flip phones. Yep. Shout out. I got the flip phone. I had hair on it. I like that picture. Shout out to me. And I was skinny. So that probably is in 2010, I think. That's my LinkedIn picture. I need to change it. So it ain't like I'm trying to date somebody. So I don't think I am not catfishing anybody. So shout out to me. So for sure, man. YouTube is a grind. You get 2 cups by the end of the year. Yeah, so it's cool. I'm getting there. And you know about the grind, cyber scientist. So some days are good. Some days you go harder. You get 3 people on the line. But like I said, if those 3 people are into it and they get something by what I'm giving, I'm super happy. Using it helps grow. Facts. So, oh my God, this is 11:41. I did start at 10. So, let's see what my man T Job said. Is it possible on 300K doing contract work without working at a big place like Amazon? Yeah, but when you do that, yeah, you could do it. But when you do contract work like that, make it 300K, you're probably going to be working for yourself, right? So you're going to be a company. You're going to have an expertise where they're going to skip over. Like if you have you ever been to Upworks? Like Upworks, you can bid on work. So I go out there sometime and bid on work. So I can get work from security. So you can make $75 an hour, but you as a company, right? I got to pay my own insurance. I got to pay my own medical. And I'm old and chunky, Teak, but my insurance, my blood pressure is high. So, but you can do it. You can do it. So, yeah, so you can do it. If you got but Upwork's a double-edged sword because you're bidding on work with people around the planet. I do Oracle. Oracle worker in the United States easily makes 6 figures. On Upworks, my Indian brothers, because they've been training in the United States and India, they charge $20 an hour. I do not open up my laptops for $20 an hour. My laptop on up and up, T. So it's a plus money, but yeah, you can make 300K without working for a big company. The cool thing though is, why wouldn't you work for a big company? Number one is you got help. Number two is I enjoy sometimes working for a big company, especially Amazon. One thing I really enjoy when I interview with Amazon is I was talking to some of the brightest people on this planet, right? And we were debating, going back and forth. And like I said, I'm gonna do a video. I accidentally insulted the federal compliance evangelist because I'm like, dude, I do this for real. You talk about it, right? So I'm not very smart sometimes. So, but no, I enjoyed that repertoire because I'm not scared, man. I've been in this game a long time. So if I think you're wrong, I'm gonna tell you. But I kept seeing David Chappelle where keeping it real goes wrong. Teak, that's what I kept seeing in my head when I was talking. I was like, yeah, keeping it real is going wrong. Shout out to me, but I don't care. Have a great weekend, bro. I'm out here stay safe. Cool, Calvin. Glad you joined me, man. Check it out. That's cool. I appreciate that, Abby. The more the merrier. But yeah, Tick, you can do it. A lot of times too is, I don't know how old you are, how long you've been in the industry. Sometimes you want to work for a big company because I worked on some killer teams, and the amount I learned. Just I was working at DoD. I was doing this ETL process. It was taking me forever. I had to finish in a backup window of 6 hours. My stuff was taking 4 days, man. True story. I met this guy that used to work for Discover. He showed me these techniques. I went from 4 days to 2 hours because he worked at Discover Card and they moved billions of records a night. What I was doing technically worked, but it couldn't scale at the level I needed to scale. So me just being around him, and we cool to this day. I call him if I get stuck with a program. The techniques he brought from Discover, I would never learned on my own, Teak. So that's one thing I like this community, and we need to share more and do more. Shout out to the Savage Scientists, do more code, do more projects, right? So I'm hoping to start a big project with different pieces in there so you can see stuff done at a high level, right? That can move a billion rows in a second. Right? We were just talking about Amazon and doing those calculations for this cascading aspect. Those are going to be billions of rows of code because they get billions of rows of information of what's up, what's down. They're getting that stuff every second, every minute, right? So you're gonna have a petabyte of information, right? How do you move through that? How do you control it? How do you back it up, right? There's a lot to go with that, T, right? And I learned that over 30 years, right? So, and two is I'm not arrogant enough to think I know I need to hang out with my man's gone before the billions, right? He's young, he's doing new techniques. Cyber scientists, he's younger than me. They're doing new techniques. Some of the stuff I do is outdated, right? So I got to balance with the old and the new, right? To make sure what I know is current and what I know can still scale, right? But two, the good thing with me is I probably do big data more than most people do in this space, right? Because I work for DoD, right? So okay, 18. I love doing. I've done that for 15 years at DoD, Abby. We used to move the retirees to make sure they got paid, and it was a billion rows, and we had to do it in 4 hours because the backup would start at a certain time. So you got a window. You got to get all that information done, and each file had to go to a different. They call it clacker base back then. So you had to look at the code and figure out because we were printing these, right? A lot of it wasn't electronic yet. So we were printing our checks. So you had to send it to a certain base so it could get delivered. So, but now I love that. And Abby, I probably start doing a little more of that from AWS style because AWS does data lakes, which is a little different than a data warehouse, which is a little different than a data source. Let me get off of this topic, Abby. I can talk data warehousing all day. But yeah, we definitely going to touch on that. And my homies, he's probably not on here. Before the billions, we're going to do some, he's a data engineer, so we definitely going to do some data flows, some data lakes compared to a data warehouse, right? Data warehouse, data lakes, operational data store, right? Those are different types of data stores that flow in there depending on your time dimensions, right? So Let's see what my man said. I can see working at a big place for information and learn. Yeah, that too. And I tell people go small or big. That's really how I made my living. Like I would work for a big company. Then when I go to a small company, I say, see, I have all this experience from the big company. I can bring you all these procedures and policies to make sure you get. Then when I went from the small company to big company, I was like, see, I was doing everything. So I like working at both for both. But yeah, Tick, you just got to figure. And two is with Twitter and YouTube, there's so many ways to connect to with people to talk about different techniques, right? I'm gonna interview a couple people from Amazon, a couple people from Google, and different, like I said, different projects and how they spin stuff up. So I don't want to say you have to work at a big place. I just didn't want you to like poo-poo it right off the bat. There are a few benefits, but once again, with YouTube, Google, Twitter, there's so many people sharing techniques, right? That in the old days, you had to work with a team to get it, right? You could go on Udemy. I bought a Udemy big data class for when I did that little AWS interview. He just kind of walked through how would you develop Twitter on AWS? How would you do LinkedIn, right? So he kind of went through those techniques of what that looked like to scale at a massive scale. The crazy thing is only 3% of the companies need to scale at the size of a Amazon, AWS, or LinkedIn. Most people are never going to get that big. So they said there are more questions. Shout out to Abby. She got me on. I love where get my star schemas. I don't know if you read Ralph Kimball. That was the father of data warehousing. That's how old I am. So I read the Ralph Kimball, father of data warehousing book because I was doing data warehousing when it first came out. Now we done moved to data lakes, man. Everything gets updated. So shout out to Amazon. We're going to talk about data lakes in the near future. So that's been on my agenda. Like I said, this weekend, I'm getting my slides ready. I'm going to talk about the system manager and specifically session manager and automation as part of that. Please share which Udemy class you took. Yeah, I could do that. For the big data stuff, Abby, yeah, I could. I'll bring it up right now. I do not have a problem doing that, my man. He was dropping a lot of knowledge. Here he is. Raj. He was hitting me up. Raj. Let's see. That's my man right here. He rocking system design. If you've seen on the side, designing Ticketmaster, designing Amazon Flipkart at the bottom. Let me make that a little bigger. Oh, that's not. So that's the one I was doing right there. Like I said, I had a brutal interview with Amazon. So he tells you kind of, he's an Amazon fellow, like a high level architect. So he tells you from an interview perspective, and when he goes to big clients, what the design patterns they would use for those bigger clients. So for my interview, I thought I needed that. That was incorrect, but I like this, and I'm actually going to start trying to create some of this with Savage Scientists on AWS, so we can both get an understanding on how would you build something at scale, how would you program it. And two is he programming it, how would I handle it from a cloud engineer and a cloud security engineer, right? Will I spin up it on EC2s? Will I do Lambda? Would I do API gateway, right? You know, would I use Amazon DB? Would I use Oracle? Would I use MySQL? Would I use DynamoDB, a NoSQL database, right? There's just so many techniques to use, and he kind of broke those techniques down for each one. Wow, Ralph Kimball facts. Yeah, so you know what that you about that I call it data warehouse life. So yeah, like I said, I've done it. I'm trying to switch over to data lakes because that's more of a new thing. 3:00 Whitten, 3:00 Eastern time. If you come to just click on my channel. I'm gonna put the thumbnail up tomorrow. What is the name of the class? I don't know yet. I usually just call it AWS. It's going to be AWS Session Manager with System Manager using Session Manager. Because if you go into AWS Console, System Manager has about 10 different things underneath you. One of them is Session and one of them is Automation. So those are the couple things I've been working on. Long story short, I have 4 AWS certs, so I'm hoping to take the SysOp. It's the last associate cert I need. So I've been studying for the SysOp, and a lot of people think session manager is going to be on the SysOp because that's one of the only AWS where you actually have to get on the console and they give you things to build in the lab. They give you 3 labs to build in the SysOp cert. So I think they're going to start doing more of their certs like that. But the AWS SysOp Associates currently the only one where you got a lab. So I feel comfortable from a test standpoint, but testing it and building it is 2 different things, right? So my test game is tight, but I've been, building my VPCs and subnets, route tables, practicing on that, spinning up DynamoDB, spinning up backups, spinning up CloudWatch. So if EC2 stays at 90%, that's a Java memory leak. I need to just kind of shut that down, restart it, and clean it out, right? So just stuff like that. Shout out to Savage Scientist in the house. But no, so this is one thing. It's called Rocking System Design. His name is Raj. He's a AWS fellow. He's high up in AWS, so he kind of, once again, what's the AWS well architected system, right? So once again, so that's the stuff I learned. I think I paid $11.99 for the class. So once again, I've been studying for my cert, so I wanted to get some practical experience of how to scale at a high level, so I can actually put my certs and be able to do it in real life, right? So just because you can talk about it, don't mean you can actually build it, right? Those are 2 separate things, right? I work with a lot of system design guys and system architects. They can draw it on a board, but when you actually have to go to Oracle and write you a insert select statement or with statement to save it in memory, right? We're talking about moving 1 billion rows. What's the best way, right? Write a pivot table to go through, right? So how would you do it in real life to make it scale, right? So that's kind of what he was talking in this Udemy class, right? I bought it, so I own it. So I probably, once I take that SysOp test and pass, and I'll get back on here a little bit, right? So that's about it. I'm gonna stop rambling. So anybody got any other questions? My channel is about cybersecurity. I have 3 parts. I usually do cyber news. We were talking about teams with the password in the clear. If you're using their desktop app, they had a bug. So the other part of that, I do a lot of AWS, right? The other part is I do security compliance and security assurance and security auditing, right? And I mentioned that. So Savage Scientist designs and it says it's FedRAMP approved or for a DOD or for HIPAA. My job is to come through as an IT security audit and audit this application, right? And I got videos with their application design for DOD. That's 300 checks of your application you have to go through, right? And then we're talking about if you run it on Linux, I think that was 305 checks to lock down a Linux server, right? So that's really what I do. And I'm going to talk about that and how to get an assurance into security, right? Because a lot of people really not hip to it. How to get into IT auditing and insurance. And once again, get the bag, make money. Once again, there's a lot of ways to get in cybersecurity. So that's all I got. I'm going to hang around for a couple more questions. And I'm going to wrap it up. I got to do a little work tomorrow so they don't fire me. But once again, studying for my AWS SysOp associate cert. Once again, I got 4. I'm trying to get that one in. Take one of the professional certs. Well, everybody have a good night. Reach out to me, professorblackops@gmail.com. I got to do a better job checking my email. I just been dragging lately. My plate's been a little full, but I appreciate for sure. Yeah, man, trying to get that AWS money in the future. We all talked about the cloud is now, if not the future, right? I'm 55. I got to get to 65, so I think the cloud's it. Savage. That's gonna be my last 10, man. Going for 55 to 65. I'm gonna shut it down, man. Shut it down. Happy to catch one of these live. I'm glad you called me, Xavier, man. I'm glad you called me. I'm thinking about doing one tomorrow at 2. I'm debating. I'm kind of tired. I'm debating if I'm gonna do one. The one tomorrow will be kids are getting their identity stolen at tax places. So how do you protect your kids' ID, your kids' identification from a cybersecurity perspective, right? Fraud's part of security, right? So people are stealing kids' IDs, claiming them on their taxes, right? They file their taxes before you claim your kid. They claim them, right? Then they take credit cards out in babies' names and use them, right? So what things can you do to protect your baby's identity and credit score so they can grow up and have good credit? So peace out, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate the stream. Appreciate it, John. Once again, I'm out. Everybody have a nice weekend. I'm sure you'll see me again. Come check me out Sunday, 3 Eastern time. You'll see the thumbnail. Probably first thing in the morning. I'm tired. Have a good night.